Hey everyone, today I want to talk about user experience and what it means for configurators. So I do that in October 2022, and I want to use something that's fun and everyone probably has already used anyway, and that's automotive configurators, right? So, or car configurators. And I want to use some high-end ones so it's more fun, right? So when we go through this right now, I will use a Porsche configurator and I will use a McLaren configurator. And let's go ahead and let's get started. So as you can see, I have the Porsche configurator over here. I go for the classic one for the 911, build your Porsche. I go for the convertible over here and go into the configurator. So the first thing that I see when I go into this configurator is this message up here. Information for our customers. Due to a combination of global supply chain constraints and high demand, many of our cars are in short supply and therefore the wait times for all new Porsche models are currently much longer than usual. So what that tells me is basically this configurator is not connected to their ERP system, because otherwise you would know which parts are available when and where. This is a catch-all message at the beginning of the configuration, which tells me that, um, yeah, due to these constraints, they are not sure when they can actually deliver it. So you go ahead, you configure the car first, and you find out later when you will get it. So that's the first thing we noticed. Let's do the same thing now for the McLaren configurator. And I use this new Artura configurator to have a look at this. And this one over here, while this one is loading, I see no message. So this no message only means that I don't know if that's integrated with the ERP system or not, right? So I don't get any message. I will find out later, probably if it is connected or if it's not connected. Okay, good. So that was the first user experience difference, right? So, and this one over here is um, as the Porsche configurator again, and I will always use that to start. So as I go through the configurator, the first thing which I notice is that there is a price up here, right? So I start with 120,350 for the US. And then I go through these options. There is this little configuration recommendation. I go through that in a minute. But the first thing I notice, I have this price. So as I go through these options, and let's go, like, for example, to these wheels over here, I hover over it with the mouse. As you can see, the price changes depending on what wheels I choose. Now, pay attention to the image on the left, right? So as I go ahead, click on it, you will see that the image is updated with these wheels. So I do it again so you can notice this again, and notice also the price will change when I change the option and I change the image. So you have information about the price. Let's go to the McLaren configurator and see what's happening there. So I have the trim level that I can select over here. I can select different ones, but as you can already notice, I don't see any price information here. I change it and nothing happens over here. Let's also go to the wheels because that's what we did for the Porsche, right? So I go through it. You already noticed the visualization was a little bit different. So it turned the car towards me. So I had the little animation in there. And now it has even more animations when I put this wheel in there. Let's do it again. Now I have different wheels in here, but I have no price. So that's another differentiator between Porsche and McLaren here, right? The one has the price, the other one doesn't have the price. Now, one thing I want to notice as we go through this, so these configurators could be set up differently. So they have been set up to show or not show the price, right? So which impacts the user experience. Doesn't mean that the configurator that's underlying it cannot do it. It's just that's how they are set up. Another thing which is important to notice here is, especially on the Porsche configurator, is you see these 6 dots down here. That's a couple of images that they are cycling through. Let me very quickly go there. So you see the car from different angles, from the side, from the back, above, inside, outside, and so on, right? So now notice when I go and cycle through these options on the side, as soon as I get to interior, it switches to this image over here for the interior, right? So there is some logic to switch between the exterior and the interior. And I have these 6 different ankles that I basically use. Now let's do the same thing with the McLaren configurator. So I start with the paint. The paint is outside. Let me change the paint, and it changes the paint. Now let me go to the interior. It automatically knows that I want to see the car from the inside. So let me go ahead, change something here, seat type, maybe have different seats. So now I see it positions the image differently, right? So it doesn't go to a different image. It has it automatically goes to this image because it knows what I've changed. Let's see, I changed the seat belts also and make them orange. And you can see it's highlighting that. So it has a different way, a different user experience on how it shows these changes. So you're not cycling through a bunch of preset ankles, but you're dynamically going through these images that you've selected, which are also preset, but for user, it looks more dynamic. Good. So then let's go ahead and let's look for help information, right? So as I go through this, you notice the Porsche configurator has a ton of different options. And they also have these little eye information, right? So if you need more information about the seat, so the 4 sports seat, they are default. I can click on it, and then I get a little bit more information. I see the image, how the seats look like, right? A little bit of text over here, and I have potentially more information about the price. Like, for example, I think if I go to this one and I have to pay a little bit more, then you see why you have to pay more and so on. So that is different again, how you show this information. Now let's go to the McLaren configurator and have a look over here. If I need more information about certain options, I see first I have, as long as I don't have much, I see a little bit more text down here, which might be enough, right? So, and let me also maybe switch to exterior and see I have more information over here. So no need to show more info. But when I have like for the exhaust, there is more information, standard and sport. I click on it and I get a full screen help screen over here, right? So again, a little bit different way on how the help is displayed. And that already changes the user experience in general, right? So now let's go ahead, and you notice something that was here at the beginning. As I scrolled through, there was something popping up like these configuration recommendations, right? So what is that? As you notice, I didn't log on. I don't have a user with Porsche, right? So I did not type in anything. So all informations or recommendations that are displayed here are based probably on the type of car that I've selected, based on the location where I am. So let's have a look what that is. So you have obviously lots of people who look for this 911 Carrera Cabriolet. They prefer these ventilated seats in the front, right? So it's a 98% match. That's probably made on the kind of user and the location where I am, potentially some other things. And then you see a list over here. So you have these recommendations. Now, when I go to the McLaren configurator, let me see if I get any recommendations for the interior, for example. I get some explanation over here, right? So, but there's no recommendation. So there are some default selections and I can change them if I want to, but there are no recommendations from that point of view, right? So again, slightly different experience. Now let's go ahead and let's have a look at these images over here. So we have the switch between the inside and the outside. We already saw that also with McLaren, but we start again with Porsche, right? So we view interior, exterior. You can also close the top, but as you can see, pay attention to this. As I open the top again, that's not an animation. That's the picture is updated, basically, right? So then I could go ahead and say, I want to change the background over here. So I have either nothing or I have a little bit of something. There could probably be different images depending on how you want to set up the configurator. And you could also say, hey, I want to see this in AR, right? So you want to have that in your driveway. Now, for Porsche, you have to have this visualizer app to see that. Then you can scan in this QR code, and then you could see that. So now let's see if the McLaren Configurator gives you the same option over here. You can see you can save, load, reset, find dealers, but there is no option, at least nothing activated that would show you the augmented reality. Now, what you can see here though is I have different options. I can see the car from the outside, from the inside. Outside, I have this little bit of animation. Now, as I said, it doesn't mean the configurator cannot do it. It means the configurator, as it is here, is not set up to do that. And that's the user experience that's different than over here, right? So, but there's also a whole bunch of things. Both of these configurators do the same thing. And I start again with the Porsche configurator. As I go over here and I go to my summary, I can see I have lots of options. I create this Porsche code. That's like a configuration ID because you already spent some time with the configurator. You want to make sure that you don't lose the time that you've invested. You see if you already have current offers from any dealers near you. You have a dealer contact, right? So which also drives the user experience. You can save it, you can print it, you can share it on social media and so on. So a whole bunch of different ways on what you can do with it. But it's important to note, none of these is really a legally binding quote, right? So these are all you have kind of a brochure at the end on what you can do. Now let's have a look at the McLaren configurator, right? So, and over here we have, close this one. We also have the summary, and we can do the same thing. So we can share this on social media, we can save it, we can download the PDF, we can find dealers and so on. So that's the same thing. On top of that, you also have to keep in mind that this what we looked at right now was the desktop application. I used it on a Mac, and it may look a little bit different when you use it on another kind of computer. It will also look different if you use it on a smartphone or on an iPad, right? So I hope this was helpful to give you an idea on how important user experience is, how it could be different, and that you understand that it pays off to pay attention to it pretty early on. If you have any questions about this, just shoot me a message. Looking forward to your feedback here.